There's recently been a splintering in the Continental Army. You know, the one where I was the leader of rifles? Many of the headquarters members have resigned, stating that they are unhappy with how the owner, Iron Gamer 45, has been running the group. They also mention how they believe that most of the toxicity from the group has been because of a lack of leadership on Iron's part. Because of this, the previous HQ members, along with some other people who believed in their ideas, have made a new CA Discord server. This Discord server is also called the Continental Army, so I'll just call it the Other Continental Army, or OCA for short. In response to the mass amount of people leaving, Iron actually stepped down so that someone else could lead the group. He says he did this because he didn't have time to deal with all the toxicity in the group, even though he actually just spends his time streaming or not being involved in the CA at all. There have been times in the past where he has threatened to do something about the toxicity by shutting down entire regiments if they didn't comply. Which sounds bad, but at least it was better than not being active for 6 months straight, apart from spending Robux on ads every month or two. Since Iron has stepped down, the developer Certain Sound has taken his place as the head of CA. I'll talk about her more later. As I mentioned before, the previous HQ of the CA made the OCA. This is where everyone who did not want Iron as their leader went to, and a lot of people went into the OCA. According to Relevant Tyrant, the commanding general and one of the most active people in the OCA, around 80% of CA's officers transferred to the OCA. This is because most of the people who have spent more than a year in the CA have realized how detrimental Iron's reign was, including myself. The OCA generally rallies behind the idea that Iron was a bad guy, and he was, don't get me wrong. However, now that Iron isn't the owner, the OCA is trying to find ways to paint Certain Sound as the bad guy. According to Relevant, she's more tyrannical and dictatorish than Iron. You can't even say, this owner voted for Kamala, timing you out for a week or banning. Like, the F? She had a mental breakdown a few days ago, leaving with local, over 2 kids harassing her. Imagine what will happen if she's ever on her period, laughing my ass off. The OCA also happens to be a little bit more toxic than the CA. You can see this in Wake's message I just read out loud. You can also see this in the memes channel where there are many messages targeting Iron Gamer, photos of racism, and Nazism. This all goes against the OCA's own rules of not harassing anyone, which includes not making any racial remarks and not saying any slurs, which all of these images break. This is exactly what Certain Sound wanted to eliminate from the CA, so it makes sense for those people to join the OCA where they are more accepted. Keep in mind, these photos and messages do not represent all members of the OCA. Many people joined because of their shared hate for Iron, but a few joined because their behavior would not be tolerated within the CA. Those who have a distaste for Iron should not be lumped in with racist and misogynist, but it seems like they've done that to themselves. One of the worst things is that some of the OCA's leaders are sending these messages and photos. Relevant does know about this problem, however, and he says that he will try to take steps in the right direction to fix it. Right now, our only priority is to keep the morale and dedication up, because we're all united for one goal, removing that liberal female as owner. CA didn't want her as owner. CA voted Bast 110-7. Obviously, toxicity is going to be a problem for this group, but like you said, the only thing we can do for now is lower it. Oh, also, here's a screenshot of the same guy saying the N-word. This is a white Christian male, by the way. I'm not very confident that the steps are going to be taken anytime soon. However, if the OCA enforces their rules more, and if the OCA can find something else to rally behind apart from the hate of Iron Gamer and Certain Sound, and if the OCA can stop being racist, then I think they can surpass the CA easily. For example, their development speed is unheard of. They made a new map to play on in a little over 3 days, and then another map in 2 days. Usually in the CA, it takes 3 months for a bug to be fixed. Furthermore, because so many experienced players moved to the OCA, their combat is also much greater than the CA's. With the right discipline, they can definitely become a straight-up upgrade of the CA. While I did show some of Relevant's text, I also wanted to interview him over a voice call. Here is that interview. Can you introduce yourself for the viewers?
I am Relevant Tyrant, the Commanding General of New CA, former CGen of the old CA, our enemies, and yeah, that's about it.
So what are some plans you have to eliminate toxicity within the OCA?
It's more like you gotta think of it as how do you make others seem like the group is less toxic from another viewpoint. Because right now, from the other CA, they would see it as a toxic cesspool, and if you would join it, you would get immediately blasted into oblivion. Now, that's not us, and it may be the common misconception, but right now, the toxicity, we are still in the development phase, and we are still getting MP dudes to get in.
So you're saying that when they transfer over, they'll help you out with the toxicity in the OCA?
Big time. But we actually got owners and generals that really care about the toxicity. Even though it seemed like the toxicity was rampart in the old CA when we were generals, that was mainly because of the owner. People would like Yomo. He would make that announcement about how toxicity is like the biggest fault of why the group is bad. It was actually Iron Gamer himself. You see, we need owners that are actually serious and not as looked as a fucking joke. So with us as owner, me and Crown, 50/50 owner, we actually don't fuck around and actually care about the community and don't take it as a corporation.
Yeah, it's more of like a community vibe rather than like a
Mhm.
company. That's one of the reasons why people should join. But are there any other reasons why people should join the OCA if they haven't already?
We revolted. We sacrificed our ranks for removal of iron. But now, certain sound, she is the worst version of iron, I would say. Sure, she's active, and I guess you can say dedicated, motivated, but at least Iron, he had experience in Milsim. Certain Sound, she just came along just a few months ago as only a developer. She didn't even know what the CA was. Sad how like the currently got into the owner succession rate of you got to be in the company, you're the owner now, instead of the people want the owner. The people wanted Baz 2K.
On your server, I think it's 117 to 7
Yeah.
wanted Bass to be the owner instead.
And 7 people for the certain sound. People don't want certain as the owner, and we still have fears about Iron still owning the group because he is still holding everything. He's the owner of the Roblox group itself. He's the owner of every Discord server over there. He just said we got a picture stuff till he's gonna chill out till stuff cools down. Like what kind of stuff cooling down till you like come back? Like it's nobody wants you anymore, Iron. Nobody even wants you in the game. Nobody wants to affiliate with you, associate with you. Him even having any sort of influence over there, it's still a huge problem. Certain Sound, she says she's managing it 100%. No. As long as Iron is still there, she is still under his grasp. Iron said it himself in the game. He's an investor now. We don't want him as an investor. We don't want him as a moderator. We don't want a puppet. Certain Sound, that's exactly what she is.
Apart from anything associated with the CA, what do you in your group stand for?
Well, you see that our motto is freedom to the people. It actually makes sense for us because we are actually experienced owners who isn't out of touch with CA and the community. We are actually engaged and pumping out new content more than that corporation over there.
I did see that. It's very impressive how fast you guys got your new map up. That's incredible.
We differ from that corporation over there. Like I said, we are the people. We're the people's voice. We don't want ownership to be handled under a company. I don't like these. You know what? What is the company called that Iron owns or
I think
whatever
I
that
think it's
is?
like an LLC. I don't know
That's
very much about it.
limited liability corporation, something like that. He has taken the old CA into such a corporate grasp. What we have here is a total community development with community developers and owners who actually has experience in Milsim and the Continental world.
So it's not influenced by greed or at all. It's just community focused by the community for the community. Do you plan on making the OCA more combat focused and less disciplined than the CA?
It's definitely going to be more combat focused for now because, like, even as of now, we can definitely destroy that old CA because we took all of the combat members.
I believe you said you had like 80% of the officers transfer to you guys.
Yeah, we took like all their combat dudes, and if we were to war them right now, we destroy them 220. That's how much of a difference we got going on in terms of combat and drill. Like we are obviously we're gonna have some drill, like
Well, yeah.
that's yeah, but we are still gonna be more combat based because the people here they find the combat here fun. The Poop XD tech and whatever tech we got going on down the road map, we're gonna make it fun instead of some bugginess over there in the old CA with old skirmishes and BH. Like we just had, you were just there. We just had that
Yeah, the
big,
rally.
yeah, with the British versus CA. That was actually fun and reviewed highly by the combat dudes who would often review old BH or old skirmishes as buggy or boring. I have high hopes for the combat, and yeah, it's more down the road that we'll actually do more drilling events.
Along with interviewing Relevant, I thought it would be fair to interview Certain Sound as well. So, can you introduce yourself for the audience?
Sure. I'm Certain Sound. I've been in development behind local since Iron probably first took over, so about 3 years ago. I've done scripting, I've done modeling, pretty much all of the modeling you see in game. I was the only modeler. Building in Roblox, and pretty much any other bits and bobs that have been needed for a long time. Now I'm finally the owner of the community, since I saw how it was going and really wanted to see what it could be. Because I've been my short time with the community, I've seen a lot of potential, and I wanted to see that continue and not just die out because of some bad decisions.
So, you, in a way, wanted to be the owner. You weren't just stepping up because no one else would.
Well, it was kind of a mix of two things. I wanted to do what I could for the community. That ended up being the owner. But it was also just kind of right place, right time, in that I knew Iron and I've known him for a long time. He would trust me with this sort of thing, be willing to step back as long as I was owner. And I knew he wouldn't be willing to sell to someone else. It just kind of worked out that that was something I could do that I knew no one else could.
Going on what you want to give to the community, what developments or changes do you plan on bringing to the CA?
So speaking of, I did actually push one about 30 minutes ago. That included the spyglass, fixed the nighttime lighting, added the moon, like
Is
it was
that
more
in
of a minor
skirmishes?
update. No, that was in Bunker Hill.
Oh, okay. Nice.
We plan on focusing on trying to get smaller, more consistent updates rather than waiting forever for large updates, because of how the algorithm works in Roblox, and because we want the community to see that we're taking action consistently. So we're hoping to kind of push out updates every few days, even if they aren't quite as big, just with consistent changes like little mechanics, large requests or community requests. A lot of the ones for the next little while are more cosmetics, like optionals, rather than massive gameplay overhauls. But they're things that the community has wanted and talked to me about for a long time, even before I stepped into owner.
So, why did you originally make the announcement saying that you would not be able to continue with the CA just to join back a few hours later?
That was a lot of back end discussion. So what happened was me and Iron and Local had reached an agreement where Iron would step back, and Local would take over as owner and community manager, and I would be doing a lot of the work of it, and he would kind of be the name and face, and since he was doing the major development. However, me and Iron got into an argument. He broke certain terms of the agreement. We weren't going to have it. And so me and Local decided that it wasn't going to take up any more of our time or energy, gave up, and we're like, hey, since you can't keep your word, we're not willing to keep working. We then, that next morning, me and Iron, without Local, worked out a more stable, like, contract agreement where I wrote up the terms and said in no uncertain terms what I expected from him going forward, and that if he broke that, we'd have more issues than just, hey, you broke my trust. It'd be, you're breaking our legal agreement. I really just wanted to do this for the community above everything else. Me and Iron don't get along on the best of days a lot of times. So,
So, does that mean you're still working for Iron?
no. I have majority ownership, essentially.
Well, when you say majority, like how much does that mean? Is that like 50%? Is that like 99%?
So it's 50%, but he's offered 10% to Bast. So he has 40.
So, are you receiving any compensation for your position in the CA?
Not currently. What's happening with revenue is that all revenue currently is going towards ads back into the CA development. We want to upgrade some of the icons and other imagery, etc. So I don't plan on making any profit for quite a while. Hopefully, in the future, when the game is more profitable and stable and we have more regular development and we're paying off a development team, eventually it'll be profitable. But that will only ever be after any expenses for the community have come out of it. I've been doing this as a basically volunteer since I first started. I haven't made a single dime from this game.
Iron in Bunker Hill, this was probably a few days ago. He said, I legit don't make any decisions. It's all on them. I'm taking a step back aside from just normally playing the game and helping moderate the game till stuff cools down. So, does this mean that Iron plans on rejoining or gaining more leadership as the situation dries down?
I don't think so. I've talked to him about it. I think he's always going to want to maintain some level of ownership, like the 40% he has now. But that is not going to translate into decision making, leadership, etc. That is never going to be his sort of spotlight again.
So what is that 40% ownership for then, if it's not for
Primarily
any power?
for future profit, he'd hold a certain amount of revenue, and it would basically be an asset to him because in his line of work, he can show this as a portfolio of something that he invested in or owns, sort of. It's more like he's a holding company
Yeah,
more than
like
anything.
that's like his stock in the company, pretty much, in the CA.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Someone asks you, or excuse me, someone asked you why you were demoting officers. Your response was simply power restructure. Can you elaborate on that further?
Sure. When I first came in, there were a lot of people who announced the initial rule change that everything had changed and that we weren't going to be punishing people for the coup or actions during the coup, such as advertising, etc. And that has remained true. But after that point, anyone that was committing admin abuse, anyone that was sabotaging servers, like you noticed, we had a lot of people get mass banned or major restructures, that sort of thing all had to be reduced. We had to get perms under control. So anyone with perms sort of above where anyone was comfortable got deranked. Many of them got re-ranked if they were trustworthy under the new HQ. Some didn't. I'm working personally with a couple of people to see if there are better places, perhaps in other regiments for like lieutenant or CO or those kind of things. Like I said, there was a kind of major structure change when all of HQ left. And because we want to move away from that sort of toxicity and the slurs and stuff we saw a lot in the previous group, we had to put people in with higher perms that knew what they were doing, would be willing to do moderation, because that is now an important role for anyone in higher up, is that they moderate people underneath them, among other things.
So you believe that those people who you decommissioned that were saying all those slurs moved to the OCA?
Yes. And or were or they were actively showing behavior that wasn't fitting of personnel of their rank.
So right now, anyone can be a member of OCA and the CA, but you've recently implemented a rule stating that no one in the 3rd Brigade can be a Lance Corporal or above in both groups at the same time.
So that's already been revoked.
It has, okay.
That has already been revoked. That announcement was made soon after. Although, as I've told the OCA as well, there was a poll done before that was revoked, and the majority supported it within that community. And I only want to do things for the community. Currently, the only real blacklist is for high com members of the OCA. That is Relevant, that's Fred, Max, Crown, those kinds of people, because we were seeing a lot of sort of sabotage efforts, and that was a necessary step we had to take.
Why do you keep Relevant Tyrant and Wake the Tyrant in the CA Discord server even though they are leaders of the OCA?
Because I want to remain as diplomatic as possible, and even with our blacklist, those people have not committed behaviors unbefitting of someone. They haven't broken server rules, and as soon as they they will be dealt with accordingly. But since they've so far been respectful, I have no problem with them sort of seeing what we're doing. I have nothing to hide.
Yeah, so you're just treating them as normal members.
Exactly. While they don't have the same rank that they once held, they are absolutely allowed to just be part of the militia and see this community because they've followed server rules. And I have no problem with them seeing announcements and things we're doing. I've got nothing to hide from the OCA. As many times as I've seen them try and sort of catch me on something or different like campaigns of this or that, I believe that I've been true to my word. I am following through on what I say. I'm not under control of Iron, among other things. And I think them being able to see that is just another sort of show of good faith.
Yeah, I believe they still have honored personnel in the
Yes.
CA. I'm surprised that they still
They
have
are
that.
still highly respected amongst the community. They have not done anything to warrant me removing that.
Wow, all right, I respect that. And this question is a little bit more personal, so you can not answer it if you want, but there was a message you sent saying that you were receiving threats. So again, if you're uncomfortable talking about this, I understand, but were
No,
the
it's
people who
okay.
sent those threats a part of the OCA?
Yes. Unequivocally, I've received almost none from people that are currently within the CA. I'm still receiving numbers of threats from people in the
Currently?
OCA. Yes. And I constantly receive reports of people that have sent like similar threats or jokes in the OCA Discord itself, even. So.
Wow. Do you care to share how many threats you've received? If you're
Do you want it over an hour, over a
well,
day, in
well,
total? What are you
I'm
looking
just
for?
like a
That's
number.
a lot of different numbers.
Maybe like unique people, amount of messages would be like
It's
all
hard to
right.
tell because sometimes they make like alternate Discord accounts, and so it's hard to tell if it's the same person or multiple accounts. By number of accounts, I've received at least 57.
50. Jeez. All right.
Majority of those being sexual in nature.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Along with the questions I've asked Certain Sound, she has stated that I have experience with game management and communities, and while I don't have previous milsim experience, I am taking on people I can trust who both have a wide understanding of milsims and this community specifically. I plan on doing everything I can to bring this game to its former glory. Certain Sound has also stated that she plans on making the CA much more disciplined, including more rallies and drill. Drill is including formations and pressing certain buttons to hold your gun in a specific way. This is in contrast to the OCA, where Relevant plans on making it more combat focused rather than drill focused. If you're still deciding if you should be in the CA or OCA, keep in mind what you're looking for in a group and what community you're comfortable with being around. If you want a group that is more disciplined and respectful, then the CA will probably be better for you. If you want to join a group that is more combat focused and much more edgy than the CA, then you'll probably like the OCA more. Also, just because the OCA directly influenced Iron to step down, that does not mean you have to join them because of that. Them having Iron step down was an amazing thing for both the CA and the OCA, but I wouldn't be influenced to join the OCA because of that. That'll be it for this video. If any major updates happen, I'll probably post them as a video on my second channel, Gold Knight Extras. I will also be posting the full interviews of Certain Sound and Relevant Tyrant on my Extras channel as well. I hope you have a good moral foundation and a good day.